This episode of the Simon Racing Report is brought to you by the Simon Racing Report's website, and that is the SimonRacingReport.com. You can find the links to the YouTube channel, iTunes, Stitcher, the RSS feed. It's all there on the homepage. Don't forget as well to like the podcast page on Facebook and follow me personally on Twitter at JohnnyS8. That is my Twitter handle, JONNYESS8. Comment on this podcast if you're on YouTube, or even leave a, you know what we haven't had enough of lately, reviews of the podcast. Whether you're listening on Stitcher or iTunes, leave a review, rate it 5 stars, of course, because that's the only rating I'm going to allow. And please like the podcast too, share it, subscribe if you haven't already, if you're already an avid listener. It's been a while since our last episode, so we're hoping to get a few more out for sure. So definitely subscribe so you can stay tuned for those, and feel free as well to donate using the link on the SimonRacingReport.com homepage. Also want to give a shout out to Team Mad, who have had some brilliant success lately in the world of sim racing. And you can check them out on Twitter at Mad Sim Racing is their Twitter handle. We got Sebastian Job coming up next. Boy, am I looking forward to chatting to Seb, because he has had a remarkable year, and maybe I'll leave it at that. You know what? We'll leave it to the podcast, but all I'm going to say is he's had a remarkable year, and there's a lot to chat about all this recent success in not just the sim racing world, but the real world as well. So let's get to it. Welcome to the Simon Racing Report. We are recording this on the 6th of November, late evening in Australia, morning on a Tuesday.
Morning.
For the UK, exactly. For Sebastian Job is joining me. You know, Sebastian, it's Melbourne Cup Day here today. I don't know if you know what that is, but
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, I think that explains it all. But basically, we race horses. It's like, you know, basically a racing festival.
Oh, yeah.
I
have heard
the
of it.
Emirates Melbourne Cup, one of the biggest horse racing in the world, but we don't care about that. We're going to talk about you. I don't think you've ever been on this podcast before.
Nope, first time. First podcast in general.
Yeah, in general. There we go. You're losing the L plates. The thing I the thing I really like is that you're coming off the Walter Hayes Trophy weekend. The final round, is it, of the year for British Formula Ford?
Yeah, it's not even part of British Formula Ford. It's just like European Formula Ford. It's like this separate event to all of the national championships and everything. They have the Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch, which is basically the same thing but at Brands Hatch a couple of weeks before, and then they have these two big end of season competitions where everyone comes from around Europe. Don't know if you could say around the world because there's a few American guys as well, but yeah, it's just this big end of year competition at Silverstone.
And yes, I've seen a few winners over the past few years who are, I mean, they're not even British. And I was like, oh, okay, I should have noted that. Although there are some non-British racers racing in British Formula Ford. But anyway, conversation for another time. The event for you was, I mean, you had some bad luck in there, but I thought it was quite a success. I mean, you discussed, and we talked about this before the podcast, but it was probably the fastest you've ever been in a Formula Ford car.
Yeah, I mean, I had 2 days of testing, which was nice. Because normally for Walter Hayes you do a lot more testing than usual, but in testing the pace was really good. And then in my heat, I was given pretty much the hardest heat. There was like 6 drivers all within like a couple of tenths of each other, and the 2 guys that qualified first and second finished like second and third in the final, I believe. It was a ridiculously competitive heat, and I managed to qualify third, like 200ths behind the guy that finished second overall. So that was quite promising when I saw that. But yeah, I had someone not looking in their mirrors going into turn 2 in the heat.
Yeah.
On the first lap as well. They put me off into the gravel and I was beached. And then because of that, on Sunday I was very busy. Had to do the progression race, then the last chance race, then semi-final. And if I got through a semi-final, it'd be the final as well. But in the semi-final, I had a gearbox problem. Yeah, it was really good. Like me and someone else who came second last year were fighting through the field. like because he had a mechanical problem in qualifying, I think. So he started 13th in the progression race. I started 10th, and he finished first. I finished second, and we had a slight crash on the last lap, but it was all good. I survived. But yeah, then for the last chance race, we started 25th and 26th, and we finished second and third, right behind. Well, I was right
Amazing.
behind him again. That was good fun cutting through the field, and then semi-final had to avoid a crash, and then that caused a bolt in the gear linkage to break. So I just had I couldn't change gear.
What's so impressive to me is you went 26th to third in 6 laps, and it was on the shorter layout too. It was on the national circuit. Like, it wasn't the full Silverstone Formula One layout. Like, you had less distance and less time to do so. And it's actually
Yeah,
amazing watching it on board. And I'm not just saying this because this is what everybody says when they watch this in real life, but it's like watching Sebastian Job play F1 Challenge 99 to 02, start last in like a Minardi, and then be like, oh, look, I'm second on lap 3, you know, because you put all the cars on like 70% AI or whatever the lowest difficulty is. That's actually what it looked like out there.
yeah. Unfortunately, wasn't that easy for every race, but yeah, it was. I mean, most of the people, well, not most, but a few of the people were in like older Formula Fords. They were a bit down on straight line speed, and then when you get to like the semi-finals and the final, right near the front, it's more competitive, but like it's still quite tricky to just go up the inside, hope they see you, and then make sure you like overtake 23 cars without having a single crash. Um, which is the main
Yeah.
main thing to focus on in that situation, like just making sure you finish. Because I think I only needed 18th to get through to the semi-final, so I ended up in third, so that made it a lot, well, would have made it a lot easier. I did the semi-final.
And one thing that people might forget is for the Walter Hayes Trophy, it is heat racing, and so
Yeah.
it is a little bit different to the normal Formula Ford round you have around the world, which actually begs the question: would you rather have heat racing in Formula Ford, or is it a bit too random and a bit too pedantic? Because I commentated on the iRacing Rallycross World Championship this year, and heat racing to me is it's actually not a bad format to adopt.
I quite like it, to be honest. I mean that, but at the same time, they don't really have an option with the Formula Ford Festival and the Walter Hayes, because for the Walter Hayes there was over 100 cars in total.
Yeah,
Um, so that I don't think they can have them all on the same track. But yeah,
unless it's
I quite
R-Factor
like
1,
it.
you can have them all on the same track. That's
Yeah.
what I used to do with like those. I think I said this before a couple of years ago, but that there was this car that was called the Yugo, and there was some like Russian or Yugoslavian car, and you used to have 100 of them at Daytona and just race around an oval. It was pretty fun, but that's just the chronicles of Jonathan Simon for you.
I mean,
Anyway, yeah.
if we had 100 cars on a track, it'd be every car separated like by just over half a second before you ran out of track. So it'd be quite something to watch. Um,
Anyway, what were you on about before that? I before I cut you off.
heat racing.
Yeah, the heat racing. All right. So I think that for Formula Ford, I think it's a good sort of format to adopt. We did this in FSR when I was racing in the A series, which was basically the second division. Picture your Formula 2 or your GP2, and we had a 60% feature race and then the 30% sprint race, much like the real life, a real
Yeah,
world
I
Formula
like
2
that.
series. Yeah, and I loved it because it's like, oh, you DNF from the feature race, you're still looking forward to a sprint race. It was much more fun. There's a lot more
Yeah,
overtaking, and it's the second division, so it doesn't have to be Grand Prix distance.
yeah. I find like in the iRacing World Championship it can get a bit stale. Just every race, it's like basically wherever you qualify and then how good your start is, you're most of the time just going to finish there. There's because of how bad the like F1 car is for dirty air and all that. So I think they could do mixing it up, like reverse grids or
Yeah.
heat rate. Well, I don't know if heat racing for F1, but you know that I do like the idea of mixing up the format a bit like that. I think it's makes the racing much more unpredictable and exciting.
I suggested it once for the Pro Series to say let's change this format and make it a complete heat racing system. But then I'm thinking, wait a second, what happens if a driver like Mitchell de Jong comes in to the Pro Series, by far the best driver there, and all of a sudden has such an unlucky run of races that he doesn't actually get a license in the end? And so you actually want your quickest drivers coming through, which is, I mean, that's sort of to contradict our idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think it balance out over a season, but you don't really know, to be fair, until you try it. But I mean, from a spectator point of view, it'd just be so much better. Like, it just like way more viewers, people would be more interested in it. Like, it's not a procession of a race anymore. Um, but yeah, you don't want to overdo it as well. Like, you don't want to have like some crazy heat races, Mario Kart style or something. So yeah, it's a bit of a balance, but I think something like that would be really, really good fun. Like in the GT series, it's not so much of a problem because there's some strategy, which we won't have next year because you can change tires and fuel at the same time, I think. But in those cars, you can also overtake a bit easier. So it's not as bad in that series. It can still be, and also it's just way more competitive at the front, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
which makes it a bit more entertaining compared to the Grand Prix series, which is, I mean, it was a bit closer this year, I thought.
Yeah, but it's still quite clear who the best driver on the grid is by far, unfortunately. But it's fair enough. He drove very well.
Well, back to the Walter Hayes Trophy now. I know Graham Carroll, your former teammate, he won that event. You surely know that, of course. Was that in 2015, I think?
Yeah, 2015. He was down at the weekend driver coaching me.
Well, he's been there in a couple of rounds, hasn't he, to help you out this year?
Yeah, first round at Silverstone, then Knockhill in Scotland.
And then Silverstone again. He's been at more rounds than he's missed.
But yeah, it's been really helpful, to be fair, because he knows what the transition between iRacing and Formula Ford is, so he can help out a lot because he's got that same viewpoint. So one of the main things is like getting used to sliding the car about, which you don't do at all in iRacing. Like, and I think he understood like how that was so weird for me, like to get used to like being counter steering the car mid corner and you don't lose time from it. You like if anything, it might be quicker. And it like it's a lot of confidence. Like it's a confidence thing, and I think he understood that a bit more, and was able to help out with that.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was sim racing. I don't think iRacing simulates that well. I think the best
not
sim, the best sim, I think, I might be wrong with this. It was either Netcar Pro or Live for Speed. I know Netcar Pro was very quiet sim, very underrated sim. This is a stretch for those who ever raced it, but racing the Formula Ford in that sim was amazing. And rFactor 2, I'll tell you what, rFactor 2 does a pretty good job of that. I think the steering mid-corner and the active wheel and how it's moving all the time, and you're thinking to yourself, is this realistic? And it actually sort of is. So I guess like that's something where, and we've seen it, even drivers adapting from like an rFactor 2 to an iRacing to the real world, they're all just different in their own sense. And it's why a guy like Bono Haas didn't win the world championship in 2017 in iRacing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine Live for Speed would be really good in that sense because it was used quite a lot for drifting, I believe. And it's like that point where you go over the limit and you start to lose grip in tire, but in iRacing the tires just overheat as soon as you do that. Whereas in real life you still have a lot more grip than on iRacing. It's not like you still have grip, but it's the car's not going to snap on you suddenly. And also it does depend on the tires because in Formula Ford they aren't using slicks like in most cars in iRacing, but still I think it's a bit too extreme as it is.
Yeah, and there's a lot less feedback through the wheel in my opinion as well, but that's I don't want to talk about
and
that.
Also I was talking to someone about it last night, and just being able to feel everything through your ass, like you don't notice it at first. When I first did my my first few test days, I wasn't pushing so much on the limit, um, and I couldn't notice it as much. And then once I was really pushing, you just a moment's about to come basically, and so you're ready for it. And yeah, that's something you really can't simulate at all, I don't think.
Does a stronger butt help though in the real world? Is Sebastian Job going squatting every week at the gym?
No, I don't squat, but I mean, don't think I have a bad ass, but
At least
no,
you're feeling
I
something.
don't know.
Oh,
I
gee.
don't know.
But so back to Graham. Did he? So he had a lot of influence on you then this year. Like
Yeah,
he,
it was
I mean,
very helpful.
how did you get on board with it all? Is it because you were former teammates? Is it because he heard about it and he got in touch with you? How did that all start?
The team the scholarship was run with is the team he won the Walter Hayes with in 2015.
Oh,
So
BM
he knows
Racing.
them all. Yeah, he knows them all very well. And I guess Andy, the team boss, probably contacted him, or Graham contacted. I don't know, but it was, I guess, quite a straightforward decision because me being me used to being teammates with Graham, and him winning the Water Haze with BM was like it just made sense really. Because he can give me that advice from a different viewpoint. So yeah, it's I don't know how it came about, but it was actually a surprise. Well, it was meant to be a surprise to me, but Graham kind of spoiled it. He told me a few days beforehand, but yeah, he just showed up for the Silverstone test day, and I wasn't meant to know, but
It's too late now. Well,
yeah,
the thing I liked is when I was watching your race at Knockhill, which we'll actually speak about later because that had some interesting circumstances there.
yeah,
I saw like your engineer or somebody, and then somebody else come in to speak to in the cockpit, and I was like, wait a second, that looks like Graham. And then I heard his Scottish voice, and I was like, oh, it's definitely Graham. And I was like,
yeah,
it's definitely him now. He's now he races for Red Bull now, doesn't he? Jeez.
yeah, yeah. He's doing very well. Showed up to Silverstone with his Red Bull hat on, Red Bull jacket,
Like all the free
but
Red
no.
Bull in that mini fridge. You know when you go to the Red Bull events
Oh
and they
yeah,
have that
there
mini
was some
fridge.
Red Bull there.
Oh god, I was at I did commentary on that VSR showdown a week or 2 weeks ago. We're at this expo, and we're at the Red Bull sort of stand or the Red Bull area, and there were like
Yeah,
5 Red Bull fridges, and I'm like, fuck that. I went under the stage because they had all these Red Bulls in stock, and I just tearing apart like a Red Bull here and there. Obviously, I stopped at 2 because I was like, I think that's a little bit too much. I have like
yeah.
one a year, and I
Don't
had
want to
like
get too energetic.
yeah, I had 2 on the same day, and I was like, oh geez, I'm feeling a little bit too hype right now. But with Graham, I think he might be the most personable guy in sim racing. Although I think
Yeah, I'd
probably
agree.
Chembalik Bassi probably challenges him a little bit as well for that. I think those two are gunning for that award together.
I'd say Graham, but I am very good friends with Graham, so I'm a bit biased. Um, but like, yeah, I was very happy for him because I was there at the pro draft when he
Mm.
got picked. And like, you could tell how like ecstatic he was about that. So, but yeah, I think he's definitely one of the most like marketable people in sim racing. Like, there's yeah, I don't see any reason why not. But yeah,
Anyone else from sim racing that came out to support you?
um, yeah, Jamie came Kyrgyzstan in Northern Ireland. That was good to have some support there,
Jamie
and
Fluke you're
Craig
talking about.
Williams. Pardon?
Jamie Fluke you're talking about, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like I saw him in
Um,
one of the videos, but I was like, I don't know if that's Jamie or
might
not.
have,
Could just
yeah.
be an engineer.
I've got some pictures of him at Kyrgyzstan as well with me. Um, and then Craig Williams came to
Mm.
Croft round 7. So yeah, there was. I hope I'm not forgetting someone. I
Oh
don't
god,
think I am.
you're done now. This is why whenever
Yeah,
I do
if I
thank
did, then
yous,
that's terrible.
yeah, I had to for my conclusion to the Rallycross series in the final round. I was like, oh, I was gonna list down all the people I need to thank, and you know what I said? I'm not gonna do this. I'm
Oh,
gonna forget someone. So I just made it one dot point. It said thank everyone who
yeah,
contributed.
that's what you gotta do.
That's a
That's the
political way
easiest
to say
way.
it. I
There's
thank
no
everyone
risk involved.
thank everyone who came out to support me. You know who you are. And they'll be like, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
he's talking
yeah,
about me. He
exactly.
remembers me.
Yeah.
um, so
When in
Silver,
reality, it just didn't pop into your head at all.
Well, there, that's a trick now. See, I'm PR training you now because I'm hoping next season you get a drive for 2019, which we'll speak about
I mean,
later.
I've had to be like thanking sponsors in the racer documentary videos. I don't know if you've seen. Well,
No, I've
I guess
definitely
that's
seen
what you
them.
were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, whenever I get the chance to, at least. So I'm getting there with that. Yeah,
So
just
Silverstone,
don't
by
want
the
to
way,
forget.
I want to bring this up now. The the layouts of Silverstone, I mean, there are an abundance of layouts you can pick. If you
Yeah.
had to pick your perfect Silverstone layout, what would it be? Like if you had to, let's start
Uh,
from. Well, actually, pick your start finish straight first. Would you pick the Vale start finish straight or
what are we talking here? To hot lap or to race?
Oh, so you'd pick two different layouts then?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh God! All right, to hot. This is too confusing now. Just pick one to race. To race is hot lapping
Um,
is. Hey, we're not here to a hot lap competition. Okay, we're here to race. So which start finish straight would you want to start from?
cops.
You start the
Cops
old
turn one.
one, and then what
Yeah,
would you have? Normal cops that we have now, right? I mean, that's my favorite one.
yeah, yeah. And then well, in terms of racing, the national layout is basically just an oval, like,
Mm.
because it's just straights. Um,
But the
but
Maggots Beckett's complex now in the modern day,
yeah,
I think it was like 1990 or 91 onwards. That layout there is I enjoy it more to drive and to hot lap around, but then it doesn't help when it comes to overtaking at Stowe. But then I'm still
yeah, is Stowe
thinking,
the one at the end of the hangar straight?
yeah.
Yeah.
How do you not know
Okay.
that? Really?
I don't. I'm terrible with corner names.
Oh
Really
gosh.
terrible.
Well,
Like
yes.
Silverstone's one of my best tracks for names, and I don't know them all.
Yeah, you just insulted me because Stowe is actually, I think it might be my favorite corner in motorsport to
Really?
drive. Yeah.
I quite like it, to be fair. It's really nice when you nail it.
Yeah, I just love it. Like I remember when I was first like properly getting better at sim racing and I was able to just go free setup, no driving assist, nothing. And I was in like the '08, '09 Lewis Hamilton McLaren in like R Factor. And then sending that car through Stowe was one of the most thrilling things I've ever done in a sim. And it'd just be on the
Yeah.
edge of grip and it would be perfect and then on the throttle as well. And it was like sometimes you'd set up the car so well you don't even need to dab the brake through Stowe. That's what makes the corner so fun to me. But then would you go
Yeah.
to the new section from 2010 onwards, or do you like the old Abbey and Bridge layout?
I don't know. I'm not really that much of a fan of the new section. Like the last left before. What I say, I don't know the name. I think it's the loop. The left.
Yeah, well, they're all the loop.
Um.
The whole section is probably.
Oh well. You got the turn one, then the right. Well, turn one, then the left, then the right, then the next left. I just find it like be far too long of a corner. It feels like the car just it just feels like it takes an age to drive through there.
Basically, the slowest corner on the track, you're saying, apart from Vale
Yeah,
and Club, whatever the hell that corner's called now.
yeah.
Um,
I just find that a bit of a boring corner, a bit
yeah,
frustrating.
it's
But
frustrating. Exactly, like when you try to apply the throttle, and I know you're a driver
yeah.
who, yeah, you mean I might be wrong with
Oh,
this, but I feel like you like to
Ben's
get on the
lot.
throttle earlier.
No, yeah. I I do like to be quite aggressive with the throttle. It has been a problem in the past, but I think I've fixed that. I've worked really hard to fix it. Like in the last year or so. Um, so yeah, I do like to use the throttle to turn the car quite a bit. Um, so yeah, it's a bit of a frustrating corner in that sense.
Yeah,
You
but
just want
Brooklyn's.
to be more
Mm.
aggressive, and you just can't because it just pushes and pushes.
Brooklyn's though, that to me, on the national layout, this is pre 2010. I remember I drove driven out in the sim. This is so weird that I'm talking about a racetrack because I'm only a sim racer, whereas you're like a real world racer looking at me like
Nah,
down,
it's
looking
fine.
down at me. Anyway,
No,
Brooklyn's in the
not at all.
national layout. I was like, how can we add this to the F1 layout? This is an amazing corner, and then they found a way to do
Mm.
it. The only problem is the whole section from Abbey to Brooklands is ugly, and it's
Yeah,
I
I
just
love
don't know.
Brooklands. I think it's such a good corner. You can take different lines through there.
Mm.
Um, in the wet when I was driving it at the weekend, it was so much fun as well because you have to go right out wide to the white line and then cut back in for a really late apex. But yeah, it takes so many different lines. You can brake so late there as well, and it's good for overtaking as well. So yeah, very good corner.
So then, back to Formula Ford now. You've won the JMR Scholarship. For people who don't know, it is. Well, can you actually help me talk this through this? Is it a Project
Yeah.
Cars competition,
Uh,
correct?
it was Project Cars in the first year. This year it's on Assetto Corsa. He's complete. Well, the layout's been completely changed for this year. So last year it was just pay 25 quid for a 30-minute session, and fastest lap time wins. But you can do it as many times as you want. And it was Brands Hatch Indy and a Formula Rookie, which is for Project Cars is Formula Ford. It doesn't handle like a Formula Ford at all. Um, and yeah, that was done over quite a few months. Like he'd go around to kart tracks, or not even always kart tracks, but just places with motorsport relevance. Set up a rig, and then you'd arrive, do your 25 minutes, and that'd be it. But you could book as many sessions as you wanted. And luckily, I had G2 help me out to afford a few more sessions because that's what I heard that one of the top
Mm.
guys had done something like 20 sessions or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, had to do quite a few.
How many did you do?
Um, right, I think
Oh,
I did
just
about 8 in total.
oh, nice. God, that set you back financially. Jeez.
Well, I only paid for two, luckily. Um, I got a third from Isaac Price because he was gonna do it, but he couldn't make the date, so he gave me his one, which was very kind.
Oh,
And
nice.
that third session on that day was what made me actually think, oh, I can win this, because the first two went terribly. Um, but yeah, it was quite frustrating though, because when I did my lap time, I thought, fuck, I can go so much quicker.
Hmm.
Um, I did one of my best laps ever when I was at home, uh, and it was like a tenth quicker than everyone else on the world records, which for Brands Hatch Indy was, I thought, pretty decent.
Yeah, short track, so
Um,
it's harder
yeah, it was
to
like
gain good time.
47 seconds or 46. Yeah, 46. So I was pretty happy with that. And then when I actually did my sessions, I did like 40 because it was on a different version of the game, so it's a bit slower. I did like 47.6 was my best lap, and I did about four 47.6s, and all of them were high 47.6s. So I was really frustrated that I didn't the better lap. But yeah, and then this year they're using Assetto Corsa, but they're gonna do £200, no, £250 for a 2 hour session. But you can only do it once, and then the top
God
40
damn.
over the three tracks go to Silverstone and driver Janetta B40. I want no, oh, I don't know my Janettas, but a Janetta car, and then the top 20 of that then drive a faster Janetta car that I don't know the name of either. And then based on, I'm guessing lap time, the fastest wins, but it might be just they look at telemetry and decide, oh, his inputs look nice, want him. But yeah,
God,
that's it.
I didn't realize how much money is. Oh, I didn't even realize you had to pay money to qualify. I thought it was like one of
Yeah,
those
it's
you qualify at home or something like that. But then, like, what's covered for you for the year in terms of costs? Is it race suit and everything, helmet? Is that all covered? Do you have to pay for
nope,
anything on your own?
nope. No, we had to pay quite a bit. Um, but we weren't too happy about that because we weren't told in advance.
Hmm.
Um, there was no small print. But we had to pay for damages. Uh,
Oh, every time you
uh,
crash.
yep.
Which
We
is why
we
now I understand why you're so angry every time you you
Yeah.
crash the car on board.
That was like my biggest fear every time I raced, just the cost of damage. Um, but we struggled a lot with that. So luckily, the guy that ran the scholarship contributed a bit.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I also had to pay for helmet, suit, gloves, boots, fireproof like, clothes to go under the race suit, race license. That's set my arts test, which cost a bit, I think. Had to do my medical, which cost more. That might be it.
God,
But
damn. Surely
yeah,
you have private
so
health insurance now or something like that.
yeah, I mean it was a very expensive season. We barely managed.
Yeah,
Well, we
mm,
got some sponsor help as well. We managed to find another sponsor to help out
G2
with.
perhaps? Did G2 pay for any of this as well to get
No,
the name on the car? I saw
no.
the logo in the car.
Yeah, I put that on at the start of the season, as because they did pay for my sessions, in fairness, so I thought it'd be a nice thing to do.
Hmm.
Um, but no, it was from Dalmire, a CCTV company that my dad deals with at work. Um, they gave us some money to help with damages.
Yeah, when I went to university straight out of high school, I did an engineering degree for 6 months, which I still regret to this day. But I ended up joining a one of the student formula teams, from Formula Student,
Oh yeah,
and the amount of time they spend just attracting sponsorship is incredible. Like
yeah,
we all had to do it. Like every member of the team had to go out each week and show proof that they'd contacted at least a minimum of three potential sponsors. And in the
right,
end, obviously, no one signs up and you waste your whole life doing that because that's how sponsorship works. But that's why I feel like I feel like that's probably opened your eyes now to the world of real world racing. I mean, I know you probably knew that
yeah,
was the case before you started all of this, but now I think when you're in it, because I've commentated a few Formula Ford races back in 2017, and when I speak to those
oh
drivers,
right,
they all speak to me and say, "Oh, it's about sponsorship," and that's like the number one thing in their minds. Whereas to me, it's like I just think about the fun and the racing and the glamour. I don't think about the money.
yeah. I mean, the amount of times this season I've been asked what's next, and my reply is just sponsors.
Yeah,
Is like couldn't count it, but that's literally all it is. Like we can't afford anywhere near enough to the money that would be needed for another season. So we have to find help from somewhere in some way. And yeah, just hope for the best, really. I mean, yeah, we're trying, but we'll see how it goes. Really, it could take a while. Tomorrow we might suddenly get a really good deal, but I'd be surprised. But it's probably not very likely. But we gotta try for the best.
now that you say all this, I can understand a couple of things. The first thing is why your helmet has been white all season, and I'm
Yeah,
like, wait a
I
second,
was like,
you can't pay $10,000 or however much it costs to go and paint a helmet for yourself.
exactly. Yeah. Uh, I got offered a, a couple of well, I had a couple of options for that. And then one guy messaged me on Instagram, was like, I can do a paint design for you like at quite a good price. And I was like, all right, how much is that? And he said something like 500 quid. I was like, nope, no chance. Like, and that's a good price for a helmet paint.
But do you have
Um,
a scheme on your mind, like a design
no,
that you'd
I
like?
tried to design one. I was just had no idea what I wanted.
I
Like,
I think mine that's what happened with me. I ended up with like Lewis Hamilton's my favorite driver. So the first thing I said was, what does he have? He likes this. He likes what Senna has, and I ended
yeah.
up combining that unintentionally with Jacques Villeneuve's design,
Oh,
and I was
okay.
like, this is the ugliest thing I've ever made. And I'm like, wait a second, this looks so good because it's so unique, and I've kept it throughout my whole sim racing career. Obviously, I haven't raced in 3 years, but I think that would be. I mean, and I tried to create it on iRacing. You have your little head on the
Oh, yeah.
forums, but it doesn't look the
Bit
same.
of a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, because iRacing you can only
Yeah, it's a
pick
bit
what
limited.
the defaults. But then I want to add, you should ask Andy Werner to do it. I don't know if you know who Andy Werner is.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know him, but I know of him.
I mean, he's
Um,
designed all the RaceSpot graphics, and twice
I, th
now has designed. Is it Valtteri Bottas and another Formula One driver? Or is
I
it just
thought,
Valtteri?
yeah, I thought it was Bottas and maybe Rosberg. I don't actually know. I think I'm wrong about Rosberg, but yeah, I think Bottas.
Yeah. Well, no, you
Yeah.
might be getting mixed up with that fan who created the crying Lewis or the shitting Lewis, as Rosberg called it. And
Oh
Rosberg
yeah.
retweeted. I don't know what he did, um, but Andy Werner, he's a great shout out to that guy. He's a great
Yeah.
helmet designer. He should design yours for free and paint it for free. I've heard.
Yeah, yeah. All for free. Don't mind if I do.
I
No, that yeah, it's just money at the end of the day.
we'll we'll look into that. Which I also have to ask then. Now I can. I mean, actually, you can confess it here on the podcast. I've heard about this my whole life, and I've never driven, apart from rental cars, never driven racing cars. I've never been able to take a piss in my own race suit. And I just want to
I
know,
haven't
considering
either.
it's yours, yeah, because it's yours and you have to wash it and deal with it, you're not going to be doing that over course.
No, no, definitely not.
You
I
thought
mean,
about it?
no, no, I always went beforehand. Would not risk it. No, yeah, and also the car gets a bit, you know, dirty then.
Paper damages. Oh no.
Yeah, damages. Yeah.
Acidic damages to the cockpit. Oh man, have you taken a shit in your race? No, I'm just messing with you. Um,
Yeah, done that, done that.
so all right, back to racing now. Your first qualifying session for the season, it was pouring down rain, screaming down rain is probably better. That's going to be the toughest challenge in anybody's career, in my opinion. If you're a racing car driver, like whenever I see Formula One drivers come in and they're rookies for the first time and it's wet for their first session, I'm like, this is the toughest challenge you can ever give to someone.
Yeah, I mean, driving in the rain was ridiculously difficult when I first tried. Like the car would just on my first test day, or no, my second test day or something. I don't know. Um, we had like some of the worst rain we'd have all season, and I was just the amount of spins I had was quite something because I just couldn't push
Hmm.
um without like well I couldn't feel comfortable and push. But I was going slow and then I wasn't taking the right line, so it was bad grip because I didn't understand why people take wet lines. Now I do. It made it so much easier. But like finally, right near the end of the season, I finally got good at driving in the wet. I was in one of the test days for the water haze. I finally started to figure it out. But yeah, it's and also when you're behind another car, the spray is ridiculous. At Donington, the last round of the National Series, we had awful rain, and I was starting like 12th, and on the first lap, I was genuinely driving based on my memory of where the track was. I couldn't see the tarmac, I couldn't see anything. My visor was just pure white,
Hmm.
and it was probably one of the scariest things I've had to deal with when driving a car. Like it was ridiculous.
Do you have a radio though in the rain for Formula Ford?
No, no
So
radio, just
how do they
pitboard.
communicate to you? Oh, the pit board, man.
Yeah, but it's literally just a um, laps left, like position, basically. That's all they can get on there without it being too complicated. Um, so
To me,
yeah,
that's just it's weird because you can hardly see the pit board on the pit straight.
oh no, you can see it very easily. You'd be surprised. Like when you watch onboard footage, you probably can't see it, but like it's so easy to spot when you're actually driving.
Hmm.
I mean, I say that, but then in one of my test days, I went like 6 laps while being called in and almost ran out of fuel. But that was because I did like I just I think I was driving quite angrily because I was struggling for pace because the tires were on us. I wasn't focused, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's really easy to spot it. If you're looking for it, you won't miss it.
I've seen that happen in Formula One too, where the radio is struggling and they'll like communicate a penalty to a driver, and they're like, "Will the
Yeah,
driver look at his pit board?" Because some drivers just don't look at them sometimes, or they lose focus. But there was a race, I think it was Brands Hatch, was it, where I think you went off somewhere. I don't know. I might be getting the race wrong or the racetrack, but you had an issue with the
I had a
car, and
spin in qualifying.
they told you to pit. So what did they display pit on the pit board or something?
Oh no, I that was in race one. after after my crash, I think something like maybe the car site damage or something, but the master switch was getting stuck on something, so I was driving around on the warm-up lap and it just flicked the master switch off, so I had to keep turning it on, starting the engine up, and then just holding the master switch down, so obviously I couldn't drive like that.
Hmm.
So I had to come into the pits, but I didn't get any pit board for that because they didn't know I had a problem until I came in. Because it was
Uh,
just under the warm-up lap behind the safety car. Well, not even behind safety car, just behind the leader.
Unfortunately, I don't want to bring this up, but you've crashed a few times in Formula Ford.
Yeah.
Is that is that obviously different to crashing on a sim? It's much more, and we talked about this before. It's much more. Well, would you say you're more angry if if you crash in a World Championship Grand Prix Series race in iRacing, and you butcher like a third place result? You'd still be angry, but are you more angry in Formula 4 because of the monetary value
Um,
on that?
yeah, I'd say probably. It's more, it's very, very frustrating, especially when it wasn't, like, if it's not your fault. Like, I had quite bad luck near the end of the season. I think two crashes that weren't my fault in the slightest, and they caused damage to the car. And that's just like, just so, like, frustrating and disheartening. Like, you just think, oh, what did I do to deserve this? Like, we can't afford this.
Hmm.
Um, and it, especially when most of the times I've had crashes when I've been having a really good result as well. They've come at really bad times in that sense. So I'm like having one of my best races of the season, then someone spins in front of me and I can't avoid it. And it's so frustrating.
I saw your onboard lap at Donington, and I mean, God, that reminded me of Ayrton Senna. Like you could hardly
The
see anything.
the footage
Was worse.
had better the no footage had better vision than I could see.
Oh wow,
And
really?
yeah, because also, well, on lap one at least, because my visor also fogged up, and I was using a dark visor because the way to get the visor off had been cross-threaded or something, so I couldn't change the visor. I was just stuck with a dark visor rather than a clear visor, which
Hmm.
you'd switch to in the rain. So I had that problem. Then I didn't realize my visor had fogged up as well when all the rain started hitting it. So it took me like, so I was just driving with no vision. I almost went off at the crane and curves at Donington on the first lap, just not knowing where the track was. And there's like you have the red light on the back of the car, the rain light, and you also have the spray. And there's like a crossover between where you get all the spray, but you don't see the rain light. So you have to be quite close to them to be able to see the rain light. But if you're that close, you also get ridiculous spray.
Uh,
So it's really tricky in the rain.
and then what you're obviously not thinking about while driving, and what I'm thinking about is Billy Monger, who at that same
Yeah.
track had the huge
I
incident.
had that thought when I was driving at Donington and on the first lap, because I thought if someone's in front of me spun out, I have absolutely no idea until literally they're 2 meters in front of me or something.
Jeez.
Um, like I really was. That's the only time I've really like worried about something like that while driving this season. Like it was the only time I thought, "Geez, this is scary."
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think Donington. It always happens there, doesn't it? I mean, it's that racetrack, which is what makes it such an iconic racetrack too. But then I think this is something we're behind in sim racing, which is simulating wet weather. I mean, like,
Yeah.
which sims have given it a shot? I mean, R Factor 2's given it a shot, and
Uh, I've not even bothered to try, to be honest, because
it's not
I
even that
like,
good.
yeah, I know if iRacing do it, they'll do it pretty well. So I'm looking forward to that because I'm sure when iRacing bring it out, it'll be better than any other sim by far.
Hmm.
But it's really difficult to simulate. I've not even bothered to try it on some like maybe I've tried it on Project Cars once or twice. I don't remember.
Hmm.
I've probably done it, but yeah, I'd imagine they're probably not very accurate. It'll just be like, oh, F1 2018 or F1 2017. I've
Oh
driven
yeah,
it.
those sims. I
But
forgot.
it's
Are they
literally
sims?
just well, yeah, exactly. But it's literally just drive like it's the dry, but use less throttle and less brake. It's not proper wet driving in that sense.
Yeah. And can I also ask then? This might be one of the final things. I'm so curious, as you can tell. Like, to me, I don't know if you find these questions interesting, but to me, this is like, this is seriously one of the most entertaining things in the world. Because now, when I ask about driving on curbs, the closest I've been to driving on curbs in the real world is 3 a.m. in the morning or like 4 a.m. in the morning, right? I'm after a night out in the city, and then me and my mates. Obviously, I'm not drunk. I'm sober. I'm driving, for
Of
example.
course, yeah.
Of course, yeah. We don't condone drinking and driving at the Simon Racing Report. And I'll be with a friend or two, and a friend or two doesn't get lucky and they don't end up at someone's house. So we're like, you know what? Let's go drive to Albert Park at 4 a.m. in the morning, and then we'll go through like the final turn, go on the curb, and do all this stupid shit, and then and I'm like, wait a second, like this is actually so fun driving on the curb, and you hear the vibration that you hear on
Yeah.
TV, that same sound. Is it a thrill in a race car?
Honestly, I don't know what the speed you need to be going is, but after a certain point, it feels like a flat surface and you don't hear it. Because you're just going over it so fast that you don't notice the surface of it.
Hmm.
But yeah, when we were on the race got red flagged, the
The Knockhill race.
progression race.
Oh
No,
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 wait
no,
a second. Sorry.
Silverstone, like just this weekend, and we were coming into the pit lane, and I drove over one of the curbs, so I'm staying. We're going like what 5 miles an hour, and it was just like so bouncy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, get off the curb, get off the curb. Felt like I was damaging the car, even though you drive over them all the time. Like, it was so bouncy,
Which
and that
actually,
was like, whoa.
what can I say then? In a simulator, you hit a curb like that, or you run off the track, you don't have to worry about damage or punctures. But then for you in the real world, it's much more serious. Like if you run off at turn
Yeah,
one, you could end up with a puncture just because you did nothing wrong apart from run off the track, or the underside of the car could be damaged. It's stuff that I think that I can understand in sim racing. You don't want to punish drivers for every little piece of damage, but it's something I really liked in, for example, Richard Burns Rally. For anyone who's driven that, if you like literally sneeze on the tree that you're driving past, you basically retire for the whole 25 stage rally or something.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely a worry. Like when I retired out the semi-final at the weekend, it was because I literally drove over grass. That's, I think, what caused it. Um, like it was the most, like we've not had a single proper mechanical failure all season, and then it was just like I had to avoid a crash in front of me. Like there were cars everywhere, and I just went wide at Beckett's, went over the grass, like literally for like 5 meters, and I was going slowly, and I think that caused the damage,
Mm.
which was just ridiculous. Really, it was so unlucky. Yeah, it's something you don't have to worry about in the sim, uh, which is yeah, it's nice when you're driving on the sim, you don't have to worry about all that.
So, final thing I want to talk about with Formula Ford is the Knockhill safety car incident.
Yeah.
For those, actually, you talk us through it. For those that don't know what happened, I know that there was obviously a safety car came out, but under weird circumstances.
Yeah, there was a car rolled at turn one on the previous lap. He lost it under braking, and then when he hit the gravel, his car just rolled and rolled and rolled. And then, of course, we didn't know this because we were like in turn two by that point or something, because it was a car a few seconds back. And then they brought out the safety car, but we didn't get any safety car signs until we got onto the front straight. And then as you come over the crest of because we're doing the reverse layout of Nokia. So you come over the crest of the hill, and there's just the safety car in the middle of the track going at like 5 miles an hour. So everyone just starts slamming on the brakes. The guy that won the championship spun out and hit the wall because of it. Someone almost crashed into the pit wall. Someone, I think, broke their toe on the pit wall because they were like running to get out of the way in case someone hit the wall. Uh,
Jeez.
and yeah, there was like a video of someone so narrowly missing the safety car as well, like
Well,
full
you were
lock
pretty
up, and
close to
then
it.
yeah, I was fairly close. But yeah, it was crazy. It was so stupid. Like the yeah, there was like a meeting afterwards about that to discuss how something so ridiculous could happen. Yeah, it was scary stuff. Um, Everyone on the pit wall was just like trying to get the driver's attention before they came over the crest. Like banging on the pit wall, like waving, like slow down, slow down.
Yeah,
Um,
well, if you're a
no
focused
one hurt.
driver,
Well,
if you're a focused driver, you wouldn't be looking at the
yeah,
pit wall.
exactly, yeah. So yeah, just terrible situation all around, to be honest.
Very dangerous incident because it reminded me of Maria de Villota, who
Yeah,
crashed into the truck at Silverstone.
yeah,
And
exactly.
you look at the height of a Formula Ford car. And what is the safety car for Formula Ford? Is it like a Honda Accord?
Oh, I don't know, to be honest. I tried to like. There were probably a few times where I looked at it and I was like, "What car is that?" But I never
Ford
actually
Laser?
paid too much attention. Pardon?
No, I'm just messing around. I was like, it's such a basic car, like a
Yeah,
like a Honda
I mean, it
Accord
doesn't
or
have to
something.
go as fast as like the F1 safety car, for example.
Yeah. Well, good point. Oh, and actually, I should ask you this. Your number 13, did you pick that for your car?
Yeah, yeah. Lucky for some, I guess. Well, maybe not for me this year. Some of the luck we've had, but yeah. No, I use 13 quite a lot.
What's your Grand Prix series number that you picked?
Uh, well, I've been through a few. At first it was 78 because I qualified through the Pro Series and I had to have a high number. Then it was 33. I don't think I ever got 13. Um,
I'm trying to
yeah,
think
and
who
then for the
13.
GT Series we used 14.
Hmm. Which is close enough to 13.
Yeah, we'll count that as a 13.
Well, here, so the first person that comes to mind is Pastor Maldonado, who also had number 13, but obviously you are not anywhere near his level of shittery.
Try my
And
best.
and also the number of two-time NBA MVP Steve Nash. So there you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Bit of luck for you.
that's
So before we go now, we haven't talked about sim racing that much in
no.
in sense of a general topic. Now that you've raced in the real world, have you already made the switch to VR and sim racing, or are you still on like one
No.
screen or three screens?
I'm just on one screen at a desk kind of setup. I've heard. Well, I'm pretty sure using VR is a big disadvantage because I think was it Jeremy Booterloop
Mm.
used VR for like a year and he switched back and was like way quicker straight away. And I think that some other drivers as well. David Williams, Tommy Osgard maybe. That they all gained pace as soon as they swap back to triples or single
Wow.
or whatever. So yeah, too slow.
Yeah, which is something that a lot of people who come into sim racing think, what's the realistic setting? I'm going to do that. Whereas sim racing is no, don't pick the
Yeah,
realistic settings, pick the fast settings. And that's something
exactly.
I learned over the years in sim racing. Where it'd be like, oh, wait a second, that wouldn't work in the real world, but it's quicker in the sim, and you're like, you have to use it. So, which is pretty weird because I know Ollie Packler used virtual reality, and I feel like I might be wrong with this, but I feel like Ollie actually found that it was the same. I might be wrong, but maybe I need to get Ollie onto the podcast or something to talk about
What,
that.
that it was slower
No,
and
it was the same. He was the same pace on three
oh,
screens of VR.
oh,
I might be wrong though.
I didn't know.
I'm not speaking for Ollie on that. But okay, so what else are you doing next year? You're still going to do the GT World Championship. Are you going to do the Pro Series again to get into the Grand Prix Series?
Depends. I've heard they've got some plans to make some changes to the series, so I'm waiting to see what that is. Yeah, definitely doing GT series with Freddie. And then yeah, I don't know what our lineup will be for that, but definitely me and Freddie. Would like to do the world champ. Well, I don't know what you'd call it because I don't know if they'll continue to use the F1 car, but the World Championship with that was the F1 car. But yeah, I'd like to do that again.
What are these? Are there rumors I'm not hearing about? I know there was a potential
Yeah,
car change.
I mean, I've heard that they might change the car, but that's literally just rumors. So yeah, I really have no clue. I've not been paying much attention to it. I'm just going off of what like the odd message that I've seen in a group chat or something. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see really because I have no clue. But yeah, hopefully changes.
Well, you should be able to represent G2 Esports then, hopefully for the whole season.
Yeah.
And that's where I sometimes forget now. I'm talking to a G2 Esports athlete, and then I'm thinking, wait a second, you know you're in the same team as Kenny S, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Big time.
That's fucking incredible. Like I mean, you see how much CS:GO has grown over the years, and how popular that discipline is. And then I forget that you guys are like the equivalent to Kenny S, but in a different type of sport or discipline.
Yeah, slightly smaller scale, but yeah, it's quite cool. Um, yeah, seeing like all the whole like infrastructure behind the team and everything, like how many people they have working on stuff. It's really impressive.
Are you allowed to talk about the Fernando Alonso situation?
I don't think so. Sorry.
No. Well,
I yeah, afraid not.
for anyone listening to this is basically it's not even that big of a deal. This Fernando Alonso is not really he doesn't have his name to the team anymore.
Yeah,
Is how we'll put it. Which all right, Pascal Sturgis now. Are you happy for him that he's at Coanda
very.
Simsport and not your team?
Yeah, very. No, well, I, he's.
See
I'm
how I
happy for
phrased
him
the
to be.
question there?
Yeah, you threw me off at the end there. Um, I mean, I'd love to be teammates with him. I've sort of been teammates with him. Well, for a short amount of time. Um, but yeah, no, I'm happy for him. We're good friends, so I was happy for him to join Coanda. And I think he's seems to be doing well there. So, and I think speaking to him, it's like the exact sort of team that he really wanted to be in. And I think he loves working with like the guys because of how much they practice and how much
Hmm.
preparation they put into it and how thorough they are. And yeah, but I think he's having a good time in that team. Yeah,
Well, I think anyone who's gone through Coanda who started elsewhere has shown improvement. And I'm
yeah,
just trying to
exactly.
think, oh, this will be very interesting now. How good will Pascal Sturgis
Yeah,
be next year? Like, will he actually be on the podium, even win a race? I mean, are we stretching by saying he might be winning races? But I think
we'll
that's a little
see.
bit too far. But we'll see. Um, but it'll certainly get better. No, it's not. It's not an insult. I mean, he's finishing.
Yeah, I know.
He wasn't even
No,
top 10 in the
it's
championship.
yeah. I mean, it took me like I've what like three years of sim racing before I got a podium in the World Championship, and then like 5 years until I won a World Championship race in the GT series. So it takes time
Hmm.
unless you're like Max Benecke and get to 8K in like a year. Yeah.
Oh, what happened to you at Interlagos this year? You qualified second, but what
Uh,
happened in the race? I forgot.
I had like I think my ERS button wasn't calibrated properly. So
Hmm.
I was just a sitting duck on the straights, and then of course when that happens, lose you just start raging or being sad or you just you're not focused and you start driving shit. Um, and so I just fell back. I was driving terrible, had no straight line speed. I was just sitting duck, and then I had a contact on the last lap that put me from like I don't know 12th maybe to 19th or something like that. But yeah, quite an impressive performance to lose 17 places.
Well, unfortunately, you didn't really race after that, so we didn't get to see the true potential of you for the season.
Yeah, we have good pace though, but yeah, just couldn't show it.
But why didn't you race after that? I mean, you qualified second.
Um, there was a reason. I just don't remember. It was probably just not enjoying driving the car. I was probably a bit pissed off. Um, it might have been like other competitions, doing other competitions.
Mm.
Maybe because I was bound to miss quite a few races because of Formula Ford as well. So I definitely wasn't going to be like able to fight for a good position in championship. Um, yeah, I think it was mostly just didn't enjoy it. Didn't enjoy the car really that much. And also,
Hmm.
I felt like we were lacking a bit in setup. I think.
That's not good.
But yeah, it's a controversial topic.
Wait, can I ask then? Were you insulted by my column that I wrote earlier in the year? Because it wasn't an
Which
insulting
one?
column. The one on the sim racing consistency and adaptability. I spoke about
Oh,
you
no,
and
no.
your
I
consistency.
agreed with everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you had it was the one where you had the I can't remember what I called it. It was like the keeping up with the Kardashians, but with the core sim racing team, and something about Pascal Sturgis like stealing a bank. I don't know what I wrote. Definitely,
But the
yeah,
the article about like with where you mentioned me, Patrick Osman, and Alexi, right?
yeah, and the DNF rate and everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
what
no,
part did you agree with in particular?
just I mean it was I'll try and find it
I have to find it now.
because
Uh,
yeah, quickly.
But if you are looking for this, if you are listening to the podcast, it is on the SimonRacingReport.com. It is in the column section. I just found it. I'm going to send it right now. And if you go to
Thank you.
content at the top, you click on content, you go to column, then you go to the one from January 2018. It's called Sim Racing Champions Develop Consistency and Adaptability. Now, ironically, you know who's writing this? A non-champion. But I still feel like I was correct. And a lot of it is, I mean that's something that I never figured out because if I had to put my driving style to you, like if it was Boolean, and I said you're either a consistent driver or you're not consistent, I think I'm with you. Where I never figured out how to be consistent. And it was weird because in 2014, I was one of the most consistent drivers out there in the world, I reckon. And then I think for some reason in 2015, I think what happened was it was my practice habits that really set
Yeah.
me back. A lot more hot
Practice
lapping.
everything.
Yeah. And I hot lap a lot more than I should have. And I don't know. I just mentally I wasn't there. I was getting lazy, demotivated, and that's why since then I've just quit sim racing. I think I just lost the passion in it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird.
I think when you wrote that article, it was very true. But I'd like to think I've improved my consistency a lot since then.
Mm.
But it's not necessarily down to me. It's more Isaac and Freddie just complete like berating me for how badly I practice and just constant like reminders of how I should be practicing and what I'm doing wrong. Like I didn't do enough stints in practice, and it was something I think one of them said to me that stuck with me for a while. It was like, remember what you're practicing for. You're practicing for a race. You're not practicing to do like hot laps or something. What you should be doing in practice. You should be pretending it's the race, and that
Mm.
helped me a lot. And then my consistency in the GT series has been much better. And at Silverstone, I put in a lot more practice as well to get the pace there even better as well. And then it was smooth sailing from there for that race. But yeah, it's all practice. It's all in the practice, I'm sure.
And one of the best tips I can give, because I recently whipped out my wheel 2 months ago, I think, or 2.5 months ago, and that's why I've released all these analysis videos because I sort of have a bit more
Yeah,
knowledge on the car. But I noticed that as soon as you press tab or whatever the hell the button is for most people, it's tab on my my computer to remove the delta times. As soon as you remove that off the screen and you just say, you know what, I'm going to drive 15 laps and your goal is no off tracks. And you get it done and you're like, oh, and then you realize, oh, I set my fastest lap time while I was doing it. Like I wasn't even
yeah,
focusing on that. And then I think that's the best way to do it. Whereas I remember I'd always used to be looking at my sector times every like sector and be like, is that the quickest way through that corner? Is that the quickest way? And it's like, just drive. Just
yeah,
turn off the lap times, just drive the car, make sure you don't make any mistakes. And that's, I think, how I used to practice. Whereas when I started making all these mistakes in 2015 in my final year to date, because you never know. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that's
I
it's just practice habits.
I use the delta in practice, but I don't use sectors. Well, maybe if I'm like hot lapping, like I'm actually doing qualifying, then I'll use the sectors.
Mm.
But if I do stints, I'll always use the session last lap thing. So you're just trying to be as consistent as possible, and that
Oh,
I
nice.
think because that's what I use in the races, and then I started using it in practice, and it made me more prepared for the races because you're simulating the race. Um, but I can't. It's not I can't drive with the Delta without the Delta. I just it makes it easier for me, easier to know what I'm doing right. If I make a mistake, I don't have to think, "Well, how much time did I lose there?" Because I just know, like or if I think, oh, that felt good, was it actually good, or was it just it looked good but it wasn't good in that sense? Like so, it's just you instantly know if something you did was better.
I like that. Setting it to last lap and just trying to aim for
Yeah.
consistent laps. Why didn't you tell me this a few years ago? It would have helped me out.
Keep no secrets to myself, but now that they're revealed to everyone, no, I think most people do that. Well, I think I think Freddie probably does it. I'm guessing most people in the GT Championship do something similar. I know Mitchell doesn't use the Delta in the race, but I think he does in practice. But I
Yeah,
don't know what setting.
I never use the delta in a race. I think to me it's like you're already driving as fast as you can. There's no point needing to focus on a
Right.
lap time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I do it just to get myself to focus on consistency, really. Sometimes it can be like almost motivating, like you'll see
hmm,
like sometime on some laps you just have more grip. It's quite weird. Like sometimes you'll just you'll drive it almost the same, but you'll just gain 2 tenths and in like one corner, and it's like the tires cool down or something, and you suddenly well maybe 2 tenths is a bit extreme, but and you like it can be a bit motivating to say that because you're like oh okay I know there's time there. If I can start or if you make a mistake for example, and then the next lap you gain 0.05 and yet the previous lap you still pulled away from the guys on front, you then think, oh, if I don't make that mistake and if I nail that corner every lap, that's another 0.05 that I'm gaining on the person behind, and I'm already pulling away from them, so I can just pull away more. And it's
hmm,
like for me, that like
yeah.
when I finish a lap, I think like, oh, okay, they gained a tenth on me, but I know I made a tenth and a half in mistakes, and I know exactly that it was a tenth and a half because I've been using the delta. I know if I just don't make that mistake again, I'll pull away, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't know. It's a
But
really
then you
good.
can overthink it as well.
Well, yeah,
It's like
exactly. That's what I was about to say. Was you don't want
I
to.
say this, but it's all like a kind of subconscious thing, if that makes like it's not something I actively think about. It's just
Yeah.
I kind of know like oh that wasn't the best lap, and I know that for a fact because I'm using the delta.
Well, that's like, it's like when like F1 drivers try to explain how they save the car, and they go like, "Oh, so when the car turned this way, I did this, and then I thought about this," and you're like, "This is all in point 0.2 of a second." So it's all a subconscious thing. But no, I do agree with you. The thing though is, I mean, and let me know if this makes sense. But for example, when people go for runs, just for exercise, to me, it's like the most boring thing in the world. But you still have to do it because you don't want to get fat and you want to stay
Yeah,
fit. Um, so when you do that and then people start racing against time and I'm like this is the most boring thing in the world. Like what is enjoyable about this? Like if you want cardio I'll just go out and hit the basketball courts for a few hours, or something like that. But then I'm thinking that's where to me in sim racing I wouldn't want to race the time. To me with racing and driving there is an enjoyment out of beating a lap time and getting a great lap time out of it. But to me, it's like I find enjoyment in just driving the car and getting traction out of a corner and feeling good. And to me, it's like if I feel good and I'm happy in a car and I'm enjoying it, I'm going to be more consistent. I don't need to look at a lap time to help me do that. But this is just driving style and preference. Obviously other
yeah,
drivers don't find the thrill in that. They find the thrill in racing the stopwatch.
yeah. For me, I'm ridiculously competitive. So if I'm all about like I love hot lapping because I love to just try and beat other people's lap times. So it's like because I'm just so competitive, I love to do that. But I kind of I find practice can be very boring, and that's like part of the problem in the past.
Hmm.
Because it's like I don't enjoy trying to be consistent. I enjoy trying to be fast. Um, and like I I'd rather just do hot laps for like 3 hours than do a stint, a 1 hour stint, then another hour stint or something like that. Because I get so bored. 'Cause
Yeah.
whereas in the race, I find it so like I really enjoy stinting in the race because I see someone like let's say 2 seconds back and they're doing almost identical lap times to me. I find that like so enjoyable just trading lap times with someone because it's such a challenge. Whereas when I'm practicing, it doesn't feel like a challenge so much. It's like it just gets a bit boring, just trying to do the same lap over and over. Um, whereas I know, well, I think Freddie is like probably the most consistent driver I know, and I think he just enjoys driving, and that
Yeah.
might be part of why. I don't know for a fact, but whereas I just love hot lapping. I just like to try and beat the best time. Yeah, that's it. I just want to win. Don't enjoy the driving and practicing as much.
So then, who do you reckon in your career has beaten you more, yourself or other drivers, mentally?
Myself, definitely.
In what sense? Do you think are you a driver who loses concentration, or are you a driver that thinks too much?
Think too much and just not prepared properly for races. Literally only in the last year have I started properly preparing for races, what I'd consider proper preparation now.
Hmm.
Um, and at the time when I was doing this bad preparation, I thought it was, good preparation, but um, I was very ignorant to how much preparation was needed for a race.
I find that weird because when I was sim racing, I would lose focus, and that was my issue when it came down to consistency. But then when I played basketball, and I played basketball at a pretty high level when I was younger. I mean, I played against guys like Ben Simmons and all those kinds of
Oh,
guys when I
okay.
was younger.
Oh.
But they were 50 times better than me, Seb. So don't get too excited. Um, anyway, and when I'd play there at those high level of competitions, I realized I'd be overthinking things, and that's what would cost me mentally. It wasn't that I was losing focus; it's I was really focused. I was a very high IQ player, and I think that's why I coach now. But I just couldn't just relax and play a step ahead. Obviously, it's changed now when you're older, and I think that's something that you'll probably find the older you get is like you just get more confident in yourself and
Yeah,
a lot better.
definitely.
But I just find that weird how in the two different sports I suffer with the complete opposite spectrum of
Yeah.
mental strength issues.
Yeah, I mean, I know I had the problem of talking too much when I drive.
Oh, I don't
And
think that's
I've
an issue though.
no, because it's taking focus away, isn't it? When you're talking, you're thinking about something
Hmm.
else. And like even if I noticed as soon as it was pointed out to me, I started noticing whenever I spoke, my lap time was slower. It was, and as soon as I stopped talking, my lap times were more consistent and better. Um, but that was one problem. And then it was sometimes I just when I had my problem with spinning, it wasn't like lack of focus or something. It wasn't like I was just daydreaming or something. It was very just lack of preparation, not knowing what the car was gonna do.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think mentally like it's a problem anymore. It used to be, but it was more just preparation. And like not at times I've thought, oh, I'm not as good as that guy. Whereas now I don't normally have those thoughts. I'm usually pretty confident when I go into a race nowadays.
No, I like that.
Even if like 10 minutes beforehand someone beats my qualifying lap by 2 tenths or something, and I'll be like, oh shit, like I'm really slow, but I'll still be able to like
Yeah.
kind of get through it, sort of.
Before we go, should we talk about F1 Esports and the Pro Draft? Is there anything interesting to
Ooh,
delve up upon that?
um, I don't know really. What's
Any stories?
it's
Were you actually in the draft? Just confirming.
yeah, I was on the 40, I think it was. Yeah,
So then saltiness for not being taken.
no, I was. I like to think I wasn't at all salty. I hope I didn't like appear it. I was
No,
a bit
I
sad, but
just
like I was.
I suggested that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean. Yeah, but um, mean, to other people, I hope I didn't appear so way. I don't think I did, because I was mostly just happy for like other people, to be honest.
Mm.
Because I saw like how happy everyone was, and it was like, oh, that's nice. Shame it's not me, but at least they're having a good time, you know. But
Mm.
it was just really cool to meet everyone. To be fair, like we went clubbing on like one of the nights, and it was one of the most fun I've had like going out. So
Oh,
like
you're 18
clubbing.
now.
So,
You can go clubbing. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
forgot about that.
Love
So,
to club.
well, actually, you're born in March, aren't you? So you'll be 19 soon.
Yeah.
Man, that's
Yeah, not long, not long. It's a bit scary. I don't
you're
like
definitely
how fast it's going.
no, you definitely experienced clubbing. Who's the
Yeah.
most erratic then out of the F1 Esports guys when you go clubbing? Who gets
Graham.
the girls? Does anyone get girls, or is it still that nerdy sort of?
I don't. I mean, at the pro draft, I don't think anyone pulled. But
oh no,
yeah,
that's just
bit of
disappointing.
yeah, all round failure there. Um, but yeah, Graham's definitely one of the louder ones. I don't know if you heard about like at the Sim Expo, there was like police came to the house because it was so loud.
No, I didn't hear about this. I did see some
like,
videos that Pash sent. I think I might have seen you in one of them.
oh yeah, there's quite a few videos of me.
Oh, how did I not hear about this police story? Is this because of Graham?
It was just because the music was that. I think we got quite unlucky. There was like normally like when you go to Sim Expo in the place you stay, it's like all the teams are around you, like in their houses, or the mini houses that they have. But there was like a family. We just got unlucky, and there was a family nearby. But of course, we were quite drunk, so it took a few warnings, and then the police showed up.
Oh man!
But you know, it was all good in the end. But it was makes for a good story. And there were quite funny pictures of it, like Patrick being told off by a policeman.
Oh man, I'm already enjoying this, and this isn't even like I already know this is probably 2% of what's happened. I know the other stuff. Surely there's something else you can say publicly. Otherwise, I'm going to be asking you after we leave this.
Don't know.
Who got most blind?
Most.
Oh, is that
what
not
was that?
Is that not a British term? Oh, okay.
Ooh,
In Australia,
what does it mean?
In Australia, when you get so drunk to a point where you don't know what's going on, they call you blind because basically the world's spinning.
Right. I mean, Isaac passed out next to his own vomit, so I'd say that. But then again, I was like really bad as well. So yeah, there was quite a few people. It's just I don't remember much of it, like past a certain point. But yeah, definitely quite a crazy night.
The world of professional sim racing, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, exactly.
Sim racing's growing. Everything's getting more professional. This is how it is.
You always have time for a party.
Anything to plug before we go? That you're going to be in the next few months. G2 Esports, of course, too.
Yeah. I know. Yep. Nothing to say really.
Any Facebook, Twitter accounts, websites?
They're basically just my name. To be fair, I think. Wait, my Twitter is G2 Sebi. My Instagram is Sebastian Job, and then an underscore, and then Facebook is just my name, Sebastian Job.
No, I like that. Do you have to put the G2 on Twitter? Every G2 athlete has that now.
Yeah. Well,
in the contract.
I wouldn't be verified if I didn't have it, so I'll definitely be, not changing that.
Oh God, you are verified. I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Got that blue tick. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I go to your Twitter account now, and the first tweet is all you guys at the Sim Expo throwing up and falling down. Who's got their head in the grass?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, is that you? Is there like a hole in the grass?
No, that was just me doing a roly-poly, but my neck's bent forwards.
Oh,
quite extremely.
Damn. Well, it's a bit too weird if I just retweet this now on the because this podcast won't release for another couple of days. But yeah, at least I've liked it. You can credit me on that. I have seen this before. I should have asked you in private. All right, that's it. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You can catch this episode, number 77, at the SimonRacingReport.com. The links to the YouTube channel, iTunes, Stitcher, the RSS feed, Facebook, and Twitter, they're all there on the website homepage. So don't forget to click on those. And please like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a review, whatever you can do for the podcast. Don't forget to do so. And feel free as well to donate if you can. The link is on the Simon Racing Report homepage. On the website, of course, and whatever contribution you make is always seriously appreciated, and of course, help me devote a lot more time to producing exponentially greater content for not just the podcast, but maybe columns, more analysis videos, all of that liking. Don't forget as well to follow Team Mad. They are proud supporters of the Simon Racing Report, as well as we are of them, and you can follow them on Twitter at Mad Sim Racing. So they have had a lot of success lately, and I'll be disappointed if you're not already following them to further enhance their possibilities of success in the sim racing world. But most of all, hope you enjoyed this podcast. What a great guest Sebastian Job was. We'll catch you soon for episode 78. Maybe some more analysis videos. Who knows? We haven't even released the ones from the Circuit of the Americas yet, so maybe those will be coming out soon. Who knows? Catch you soon. Don't forget to subscribe.